expectations, right? Oh, okay. Says the meeting is being recorded. Continue. All right, cool. So I'll be speaking on breaking into mobile development. So first off, who am I, right? So my name is Nelson, and I am a software engineer with about 9 years of experience. That's 8+ years of experience in mobile and web development. I actually do full stack. I mean, but back end not so much. So I'm heavy on front end, mobile and web development, right? So I've worked with different industries over the years, fintech, edutech, insurtech, and all of that, right? So currently, I work in a company called Omni Retail, and I am the lead mobile engineer there at Omni Retail. Right, so I've built diverse applications across fintech, across retail, across productivity, utility. Most of them are in the UK, in the US, right? Then aside from that, I've also, I'm always focused on optimizing for like scaling and efficiency, right? So which is actually part of the perks of being a lead engineer, right? You have to be responsible for technical planning. You have to conduct code reviews, driving strategic initiations for mobile team and all of that, right? And yeah, I'm also a passionate mentor. So over the years, I've had the opportunity to, mentor some engineers. So yeah, I'm also a very passionate mentor. Right. So what's the agenda for today? So I'm going to speak on what mobile development is, right? The essential skills, right, that you need to be a mobile engineer. The tools that you're going to be using, real world expectations, your career path, getting your first job, and Q&A. So this is going to be our agenda for today. Right. So yeah, what is mobile development? Right. So mobile development involves creating software applications that run on your mobile devices, right? Your smartphones, your tablets. So examples of applications, you have like maybe TikTok, right? I mean, everyone here uses TikTok, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, you know. The process of creating all those applications that you actually use in your phone, on your phone rather, is what we're going to discuss today, which is mobile development, right? So when we talk about mobile development, we actually have two aspects of mobile development. We have the native development and the cross-platform development, right? So in a few slides, I'm going to explain what the difference are, right? So you can choose for those that actually wants to those that want to start, mobile development. You can choose which of the developer that you want to be. Either you want to be a native developer, that's a native engineer, or a cross-platform engineer, right? So when we talk about native development, what does that mean, right? So basically, you are utilizing platform-specific languages like Kotlin for Android and Swift for iOS, right? So your iOS applications, your iPhones, right, is actually built with Swift, right? So Swift is the specific language that iOS is using, right? So when you are building a native application for iOS, right? So you're actually using that platform specific language, which is Swift, to build your applications, right? So for Android, we have Kotlin, Java Kotlin, right? So if you are building applications for Android. Android. If you are building Android applications, you have to use the platform specific language, which is Kotlin, right? So for cross-platform development, so basically you are using frameworks like React Native, right, which is where I am actually specialized in. You're using React Native or you're using Flutter, right, to write code once and deploy on multiple platforms, right? So what is the difference between them? How do you choose which one to be, right? What are the pros and cons for um, each of them, right? So for native development, right, you have unmatched performance. And reason why this is the case is because you are directly interacting with the native modules of that particular system, right? For instance, for iOS has Swift, right, that they use. So when you write programs, when you write applications in Swift, you are directly interacting with that system's core. So because of that, you have faster responses. You have like the performance is always unmatched, right? So you have access to all the device features like camera. In fact, every native module you have access to directly just by writing in Swift, right? And you also have access to platform-specific UI UX, right? So that's why you notice that some applications that are built with native development, right? They feel more native than the ones that were actually built with React Native and all of that, right? So that's the pros, right? That's one of the advantage of using native, like building native. So what are the disadvantages, right? So the disadvantage is that for native development, you have to actually build, you have to have like two separate code bases, right, for your application, right? So for instance, you have an idea, you want to build an app, right? So if you are going in the native route, in the native direction, it means that you're going to have two separate code bases. One for Kotlin, that's for the Android, and the other one for iOS, which is Swift, right? So we are going to have like, say, two developers that are going to be managing the two code bases, right? One doing Kotlin and one doing Android. So you can imagine if you have two separate code bases, two separate applications, one hosted on Apple Play Store and the other one hosted on Google Play Store, right? Say tomorrow you want to add a new feature, right? That means that no matter how little that feature is, you'd have to implement on both Android, then still come back to iOS and implement on iOS, right? Which will make development time way longer than it actually needs to be, especially if you are going to, say, implement something very simple and all of that, right? So that's one of the biggest disadvantage of going through going the native route, native direction, right? So as opposed to when you are building for cross-platform development, right? So for cross-platform development, you actually have just a single code base that actually runs on multiple platforms, right? So platform can be web, it can be iOS, it can be Android, right? Like you write a single code and it runs on all the platforms. So tomorrow, if you have a new feature that you want to implement, right, you just write the feature once and you can apply to everywhere. So you don't have to, separate the code base or the features or the code generally, right? So that's actually the difference between them. So like I mentioned before, I am actually specialized on the cross-platform development because I mean, why not? Because if you really weigh the pros and cons, right, you discover that okay, it actually benefits to go cross-platform routes because one, development time is faster because you don't have to write separate code for separate code bases, right? And I mean, cross-platform development also on its own is also very fast, right? So it is when you require maybe you want to build an application that has a very, very high computing, maybe that needs a very, very high computing power. That's when maybe like all this blockchain and all of that, right? And here you can decide to go native. But aside from that, I don't really see any reason why you'd want to go that route. So I would personally, from experience, I would recommend going through to the cross-platform development route. So if you are now a cross-platform developer and you know a little bit of native, because this cross-platform actually under the hood still relies on the native side, right? So when you write a code in JavaScript, for instance, that JavaScript is compiled into the native side. So low-key under the hood is still the native development that powers the cross-platform development. So if you are a cross-platform developer expert, for instance, and you know a little bit of native development, that's an icing on the cake, right? But aside from that, I would recommend that you go through the cross-platform development routes. So this entire presentation is going to be based on the cross-platform routes. So yeah, like I said, if I'm going too fast, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand and I'll give you, go ahead. Okay, so now let's talk about the technical skills that you'd need. So I would say it again. So these technical skills are based on the cross-platform route. We are not going the native route right now because I mean, there's actually no reason for you to go there. But if you want to go there, yeah, you can try it out. But the technical skills here, they are based on cross-platform. So the first one is JavaScript and TypeScript. So JavaScript and TypeScript, they are more or less the same. So TypeScript is just like a superset of JavaScript, right? But I mean, it's still JavaScript under the hood, right? So the first skill that you need to know is either JavaScript or that, right? So JavaScript, when you are going the React Native route, remember I mentioned two frameworks that we use for cross-platform. Number one is React Native, and the second one is Flutter, right? These are the major ones that we use for. Oh my God, see NEPA. Please. Okay. Sorry, let me share again. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Can see my screen and tell me if the concept. Hello, can anyone still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you from my side. I believe everybody can hear you also.
Okay. All right, you can hear me. All right, cool. All right, so so we have React Native and we have Flutter. So React Native and Flutter for cross-platform frameworks, right? So if you are going the React Native route, you'd have to know JavaScript and TypeScript, right? But if you want to go Flutter route, you have to learn that. So these are the foundation for many mobile frameworks, right? So aside from that, the next thing that you need is actually how to build UI components and layouts. So you need to know how to, craft intuitive and responsive interfaces, right, on either of the frameworks, either with React Native or with that, right? So the third one is APIs and JSON, right? So API stands for Application Programming Interface, right? And JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, right? So these are things that you are going to be hearing about almost every time in fact, every time in your development journey, right? So you need to know how to connect your application to the backend services using these tools, APIs and JSON, right? So it is through API that you actually communicate with your backend service, right? So the next one, you have the state management, right? So basically what this is just handling application data flow, right, in your application. So for instance, if you have a button or an accordion, right, and you click something and you see another thing pop, or you click something, you see a drop down and all of that, right? So everything that happens is actually state management. So you need to know how to handle state management in the application, right? Then the next one is Git and GitHub, right? Yeah, please, if you have any question, just let me know. Just raise your hand and I'll call you. Okay. Yeah, Git and GitHub, right? So Git is a version control system, right? So we use Git to version our changes, right? I'm not sure how to explain this more, but yeah, so Git and GitHub allows a lot of developers to actually collaborate in a single project, right? So GitHub is like where we host our code, right? That's where we store our code in layman terms, right? So for instance, say I'm building a mobile application, right, and I've written the code. I push to GitHub to save my code there, like to hold it there, right? Say tomorrow I want say Mildred, for instance, to come and collaborate on that project with me. So it is through GitHub that I'm going to send an invite to her for her to join in and all of that, right? So you need to know how to use Git and GitHub. So all these things that I'm actually mentioning, they are online. They are things that you can just research. For instance, if you type JavaScript tutorial or Dart tutorial, you check APIs and JSON, how to handle state management in a React Native application, stuff like that. So these are things that you can learn more online, right? So another technical skill that you'd need is debugging, right? I mean, as weird as it sounds, debugging is actually a skill, right? That you need to have, whether you're a junior engineer, you're just starting, or you are a lead developer, right? You need to know how to debug, right? So you need to know how to identify and resolve issues, right? And the last one is testing basics, right? So this one is just ensuring stability and reliability, right? So all this last one actually comes when you've advanced a little, maybe going to the mid-level to senior role level, right? So yeah, these are the technical skills that you need. So next, soft skills. Yes, in software engineering, right, you actually need to have soft skills, right? So it is not just about being being a wizard when it comes to writing code, right? You need to know how to communicate effectively, right, in this field, right? So you need to know how to clearly convey your ideas to team members and stakeholders. Then you need to be a problem solver. This is very, very important if you actually want to, make it. If you want to make it in this industry, you need to know how to solve a lot of problems. So approaching challenges logically and finding effective solutions, right? You need to know how to approach challenges logically, right? So, and I assure you, as a beginner, once you start and you start approaching challenges logically, you discover that, I mean, some things will not freak you anymore, because, I mean, whenever you are faced with a problem, either technical or a real life problem, sometimes you just want to, attack it logically and look for the best solution and all of that. That's having a programmer's mindset, right? So yeah, it's part of the skills that you should have. Then another one is team collaboration, because in this industry, you are going to work with a lot of other developers, right? So for instance, a single project can have up to like, 5 developers, or maybe two, three, five developers. So you need to know how to collaborate with others, right? And yeah, you also need to have a curious mindset, right? Yeah, then the last one, reading documentation. Yes, let me check the chat. Yes, I know that there are some senior engineers here hiding somewhere. Yes. So reading documentation, I know some people, even now, senior level engineers, right, that do not read documentation, right, which is always very, very bad. So I mean, sometimes you'd run into issues that if only you had read the documentation, right, you not even face those issues, right? So yeah, reading documentation is actually a very crucial skill that you need to have in mobile development. um BJ, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Go on.
Okay. Please, can you give me a minute? Let me just turn on my yeah. Please hold on, please. Thank you.
All right. All right. We'll give you a minute. This is Nigeria, Nigeria NEPA can mess you up anytime. All right, guys. So please exercise patience for our speaker. I think he's trying to get his lights back on, and then we can continue. Don't go nowhere. Don't go anywhere. Don't log out. Just relax and let's wait for him. Let's do like maybe a few more seconds.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm back. All right. Can you still hear me? All right. Cool. Let me share my screen again. Sorry, Nigeria happened. I had to go and change my. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I was on reading documentation as a very, very crucial skill that you need to have um, when navigating this route. So yeah, like I was explaining, there are still some senior engineers that they don't like reading documentation, right? So, and as a result, sometimes they just run into issues that if only they had actually, read the documentation. So the way programming works, right? Everything is actually documented. So for instance, if you want to implement a new feature, right? Someone has already done it before. So all you just need to do is to actually look for that documentation and read through it. So the documentation will tell you, okay, this is what this feature does. This is how you need to install, and this is what you need to do. This is how you need to write the code to get a particular behavior and all of that, right? I mean, it's just basically laying out the steps for you, right? So if you now want to do Jagaban and you want to, maybe you feel that, okay, you can actually implement this without looking at documentation and all that, you tend to run into some issues and you start saying that programming is very hard, but it's not true. So yeah, if only you can just sit down, sit down, relax, and just read the documentation. In fact, study first before you actually start writing code. Because I mean, in software engineering, I would say maybe 70 to 80% of the time is used for thinking and coming out with a plan, right? We actually use like may say 30 to 20% to actually write the code, right? So yeah, reading documentation is very, very important as a software engineer. Okay, so tools that you must know, tools that you need to that you'll be using in mobile development, right? So the first one is you have VS Code, Android Studio Code, and Xcode, right? I mean, there are a lot of code. So yeah, so these softwares are actually called IDEs. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So let me check the chat. Any question in the chat? Okay, no question. So if you don't ask me question, I'll ask you. After the meeting, I'm probably going to ask what's the full meaning of IDE. So yeah. So IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So what that means is that, I mean, IDEs are where we actually write our codes, right? So it's just like you have your MS Word where you type. If you want to create a Word document, you type it out, right? Say for instance in this chat, if you want to send a message. Okay, someone's hand is up. I think someone, Sparkling Sam.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I
I'll respond to that after the. I'll respond to that. Just keep the questions coming. I'll respond to all of them maybe after the meeting. All right, thank you for the question, but just keep them coming, right? So yeah, we have VS Code, we have Android Studio, and we have Xcode, right? So like I was trying to explain, these are called IDEs. IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So this is where our code sits. This is where we write all the magic. Write the code and you press enter, the magic happens. So this is where all that happens, right? So as a cross-platform developer, you have to know the basis of these three, right? So you have to know the yeah, magic. You have to know the basics of Android Studio Code. You have to know the basics of Xcode, right? So just to differentiate them, Android Studio Code is the IDE that we use to build Android applications, right? While Xcode is the IDE that we use to build iOS applications, right? And because you are a cross-platform developer, which means that you are developing both Android and iOS at the same time, that is why you need to know both of them. But ideally, if you were going the native route, where you just want to specialize in native development, right? All you need to actually know is just this Android Studio Code. This is all you actually need, because this is where you're going to be writing your code. Oh, 15 minutes left. Wow. So this is where you're going to be writing your code, deployment, and all of that, right? So if you are a native iOS developer, you only need Xcode. You understand? So you see that in a way. So you see that in a way, we cross-platform developers will actually do more of the work. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. So we actually do more and we have to know more, right? As opposed to just knowing only one for each of the platforms, right? For cross-platform, you have to know the three of them, right? So yeah, these are the primary development environments. Then another tool that you are going to be using is called Postman and Swagger, right? So this basically just handles the documentation of your APIs. Remember I mentioned API before, right? API is how we communicate between the front end and back end, right? I know that you guys have heard server before. Yeah, before you join software development, whatever, right? When you hear server, you think it's one strange thing, but once you start, you actually discover that server is just a server, right? So yeah, we use APIs to communicate between the front end and the back end, right? So when back end developers are done writing their APIs, right? So they create a documentation for you and say take. So it is that documentation that is either in Postman or Swagger. So you just take that Postman or Swagger documentation and read through it. So what it's going to say is that it's going to show you this particular API, this is what it's supposed to do. This is how you need to integrate it, like consume it. This is the payload that you need to send. This is the response that you're supposed to get. These are the errors, likely errors that you're supposed to get. That's it, documentation, right? So everything should be documented. And if everything is documented properly, a lot of issues that we have today will not have them. Yeah, so yeah, we have Postman, Swagger, then GitHub. I already explained this. GitHub is where our code sits in the cloud, right? That's where we save our code. So if tomorrow BJ wants to come and collaborate on a project with me, he's actually going to be added to the GitHub account. So if you join a new company tomorrow, they are going to add you to their GitHub account where their code is, right? You have to now clone and start, working on the particular project. So yeah, Flipper. So Flipper is a debugging platform. You don't really need this as a beginner, but Flipper is a debugging platform and is a tool that you might use. Then also Firebase. So Firebase, you need this one because as a beginner, you are not going to have access to a lot of APIs that you can experiment with, that you can learn with, right? So that's where Firebase comes in, because you can use Firebase to create your own database, because Firebase has what we call real-time database or Firestore. So you can use that to more like not really mimic, because you're actually building a server, right? But yeah, you can use it to mimic a server and all of that, right? Then yeah, we have Figma. So just to mention this again, we are talking about the tools that you need, right? So we have Figma. So Figma is actually where the UI UX design and prototyping sits, right? When I say UI UX, what do I mean? UI means user interface, and UX means user experience. So basically, what you see and what you feel is what UI UX is. So for instance, if you open Instagram, you see how the colors, how the UI is per se, like I'm saying UI, the view, with the designs, with the images, with the buttons, with the alignments, layout, and everything, right? All that is actually the UI UX. And a UI UX developer would design the UI and send you the Figma link. Then you now use that Figma link. You see how it's supposed to be. Then from there, you now adapt to code, right? Then the last one, CI/CD, right? So this one is actually for mid-level to advanced level engineers. So this one is just using GitHub Actions to, for continuous. CI means continuous integration, and CD means continuous deployment, right? Yeah, this is actually for advanced level, right? So reward expectations, right? After learning all of these things, you have all the skills, you have all the tools. What are the reward expectations, right? So the first thing is that you would have to read existing code bases, right? As a new developer that is just coming into the system, no company is going to say, start a fresh project for us. No, because you don't have the experience, right? You don't have the technical know-how. You don't know how to create a good, solid architecture yet, right? So as a newbie, what you do is that what they will do is that they will add you to their existing code base, right? So when you're added to the existing code base, you have to first of all read the code base and understand what is currently there before you can actually start contributing to it. So you don't just jump in and start writing when you don't even know what is going on, right? So yeah, this is one expectation that this is something that you should be expecting. You are not going to start a new project from scratch, because you are able to build a to-do app, a to-do application, or an expense tracker application when you are learning from scratch. Doesn't mean that if you are added to, if maybe Banjo invites you to, IT skills, it doesn't mean that you come to IT skills and you start, building a fresh project from scratch, right? So yeah. Another expectation is that you'll be working with cross-functional teams. Yeah, collaboration with designers, back-end engineers, very important, and QA engineers also. QA means quality assurance. So quality assurance engineers are basically engineers that test your application. So when you've developed your application, right, you hand it over to QA. So QA will test and try to break that application and look for all the loopholes, all the bugs that are hidden, all the dead bodies that you hit somewhere in your code. So QA, they are going to find them and report them so that you fix them. So yeah, that's what QA engineers are. Then the next one is um, fixing bugs, right? Yeah, so this is a very, very, this is something that you are going to be doing a lot, right? You are going to be debugging and resolving issues because it's a core part of the job, right? Code reviews. So you start doing code reviews when you're actually in the maybe mid-level to senior level roles, right? But as a new engineer, as a newbie, right, they are going to be reviewing your code. So your team lead or your senior engineers in that company are going to be reviewing your code. So review your code means you've written the code, you've posted it for a particular feature. I, as a team lead or as your team lead, will come to the code that you've written and start reading line by line. If you write any bins, if you do any what you are not supposed to do, I'll point it out and you have to resolve. That's what reviewing your code base means. Because I mean, some people might be thinking, all these bank applications, all these banking applications, what if I'm added to contribute to all these codes and I just write something that when somebody wants to transfer 50 million, 10 million will come to my own separate account. Or like like you want to hack the system so that you'll be receiving small change from whatever that is going on. Yeah, I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's not possible. So systems like that, whenever you push a code or a feature, whenever you write anything, that what you've written is going to be reviewed by your senior engineers or whatever. So if you do any funny business, they will catch you, right? So, yeah, so that's code reviews. Then handling production issues. So the career path, we have junior mobile developer. So these ones are just focused on learning the ropes, implementing simple screens and all of that. Then you have mid-level mobile application developers. So these ones, they start to take ownership of entire features. So for instance, you can give the person a feature like go and implement authentication flow, right? So they'll be able to handle authentication flow. So that's mid-level. Then senior level, involve yourself in architectural decisions. You can start mentoring junior developers at this stage. Then you have the lead mobile engineer role, where you do technical planning, conduct code reviews a lot of code reviews, and drive strategic initiatives for the mobile team, right? So it doesn't just end here. From here, you can now start taking managerial roles like CTO and all of that, right? So everything starts from here. CTO, CIO, and all of that, and VP engineering, head of engineering. Yeah, it continues. So yeah, because of time, because I see that we have 5 minutes left. Banjo, what do you suggest? Can this be extended, or is the meeting going to end once the time elapses? If yes, then maybe I can just stop here and attend to questions. Hello, Banjo. Hello. Can anyone still hear me? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It's not responding. This meeting might go off. Yeah, but let me just continue. So, how to get your first job? So, as a newbie, you have to try and build a lot of projects, right? No matter how small it is. We all know that you're a junior engineer, so you have to build a lot of projects. So, do application, build it, put on your GitHub, create activity on your GitHub, basically, right? So that will help, because if I want to hire you tomorrow, the first thing I'm going to ask you for is your GitHub account, right? So I'm going to check your activity on GitHub, see what you've done, right? So that's what I will use to judge whether to hire you or not, right? So this is very essential. You need to build projects. You need to optimize your LinkedIn account. So if you're a newbie here, like you want to start software engineering, you have to go and open a LinkedIn account if you don't already have. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I should stop rushing. He said we have time. All right, cool. Someone is raising his hand. Callistus. Hello, Callistus.
Okay, don't worry, continue. I wanted to tell you that the time has been extended.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the next one is optimize your CV and your LinkedIn. This is very, very, very important, right? So as a newcomer in the field, in the industry, right, just go and create a LinkedIn account. So the two things that you need to have first, create a LinkedIn account and create a GitHub account, right? Any simple thing that you do, no matter how small it is, just push it to the GitHub, right? Just keep pushing, right? And on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is like, for those that do not know, LinkedIn is like a professional, maybe professional social media. How will I put it? Right. So LinkedIn is where you actually put your profile as a professional in your field, right? Just like you have Instagram, all those social media. So we have LinkedIn for professionals. So you create your profile there, and you can even be, documenting your journey, right? You can be posting, saying that, oh, I'm building this, I'm learning how to do this. People are going to be seeing it, so that when you are finally ready to start applying for jobs, in fact, sometimes you post something so interesting that you are learning at that point, that when others see, because LinkedIn is not just Nigeria, everybody in the world can see your posts, depending on how the stuff works. Okay, so sometimes you might be working on something so interesting, right? Learning something so interesting that maybe a company that is already doing something like that can even reach out to you, and from there you get a job, right? So these things happen. So just make sure that you build activity, you have activity in your LinkedIn and in your GitHub account, right? Yeah, for GitHub, you have to always push code to GitHub, no matter how little it is, right? Everybody knows that you're still learning, so don't care about whatever anybody is saying. Even if you write a single line of code, push it. In fact, you can just create a plan to be pushing to GitHub twice a day. Just write one line, push, 2 lines, push. The next day, do the same thing. It's going to create activity on your GitHub repository or on your GitHub profile, right? So if a company or HR wants to reach out to you tomorrow, they will ask for that profile. That's what they are going to use. They're going to check and see if this guy has actually done anything or not. So they're going to use that too. Then the next one is join communities. This is very, 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 very helpful. Join communities. There are a lot of React Native communities out there, or Flutter communities. You join them, right? So when you join all these communities, sometimes they come and post jobs, right? So when they post jobs, you can even apply and get. I know like for some roles that I've had over the years, like even international roles, right? I did not get them from just applying to the job. Say for instance, US jobs, right? It is very hard for you to actually go to LinkedIn and apply to a US job, a US role, and they will actually reach out to you. It is very hard. But how do you get all these jobs? Through communities, right? I remember one time from one community that I belong to, they just posted a job. Quickly, I reached out to the person, sent my CV, and voila, I was hired. You understand? So yeah, you have to join a lot of communities. It doesn't matter if they are saying rubbish that you don't understand, just be there. So whenever anybody comes to post something, oh, how can you get foreign jobs? Apple. Okay. Yeah, I'll speak on that. I'll speak on that after the meeting. Okay. Yeah, join communities. So the next one, beginner projects that you can build, right? So right now, what are the projects that you can actually start building, right? Start working on right now. So the first one is a to-do list application. So what is this application going to help you learn, right? It's going to help you master how to handle basic CRUD operations. When we say CRUD, C-U-R-D, what do we mean? CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete, right? That's what CRUD stands for. So a to-do list application is going to help you master all these basics. So for instance, you create a to-do list, that's creating. Then after creating it, you can see the to-do list that you just created in a list, that's read. Then you can now click to edit that to-do list. Maybe you want to change the title from take out the trash to clean the room, right? When you are updating, that is the U in the CRUD. Then if you want to delete a to-do list, that's delete. So CRUD operations. So a to-do list application is going to help you master these basic operations and also state management and user interaction. So yeah, I will highly recommend this for a beginner in this field. So build the to-do list application and push it to your GitHub. Just allow it to be there. A lot of developers have built to-do list applications, but that should not stop you. Build your own application and push it. Nobody will fight you, nobody will kill you, right? So yeah, it's going to help you master the basic CRUD operations. Then another application that you can build is actually called like an expense tracker, right? So an application that tracks your expenses. Say you receive this amount in a month. After receiving the amount, this is how much you spent on food, this is how much you spent on transport, an application that will track all those things for you so that at the end of the month, you can have a full breakdown of how you spent your money for that month, right? So you can build an expense tracker for that, right? So it will help you to learn how to persist your data, right? Persisting your data means so that if you close the app and you come back, you can still see that data that you've already put there. That's what persisting means, right? Then data visualization also, you can see full visualization of everything that's been going on for that particular month. Then authentication and API application, right? This is very important. So because it is from here that you start interacting with backend services, right? You start learning how to integrate APIs. So, and like I said from the very beginning, as a beginner, you are not going to really have access to a lot of APIs that you can play with, that you can experiment with, right? So Firebase, that's where Firebase actually comes in. So for instance, if you want to build an authentication app, right? So Firebase actually has this authentication. authentication service that you can just consume, right? So Firebase will allow you to learn a lot of these things. You get. So yeah, then build a mini e-commerce application, right? Say you can build a mini Jumia application. I'm sure everybody here knows Jumia, right? So you know Jumia, you have your product listings, you can click a product, add to cart, checkout, and all of those things. You can do that. It is not actually hard. Once you learn, programming is just like English language. Once you learn how to speak it, like you can say anything you want, you can use it to create anything you want, right? So yeah, build a mini e-commerce application, simulate product listings, shopping carts, navigation flow. All right. So the next thing is weather forecasts, right? So you can build an application for weather forecast. So this will allow you to practice API consumption, right? To allow you to practice API consumption and also location services, right? So for instance, if I live here and I go to Edo State, what's the weather going to be like, right? That application can actually fetch the weather forecast for that particular location, right? So yeah, you can practice with this. And like I said before, there are a lot of resources online. People have done all these things so many times. So it's not like you are learning something from. So all you just need to do is to find what someone has done before or a documentation and just go through it and read through it. Right. That's all you need. It's not like you are going to, start creating all these things that maybe do not exist before. All these things already exist. You just need to tap into it and learn about them. Right. Then the next thing is um, simple UI clone. Right. So you can just to learn how to build UIs. You can just decide to clone an application. So if you like Instagram app very well, you can just say, okay, today I want to clone a version of Instagram. I want to write the code myself. So you check the layout, you check the design, and try to replicate that same thing, right? And I assure you, if you do something like that, if you're able to clone an application and you push it to your GitHub and you're applying for a job tomorrow, and the recruiter sees all these things that you've done as a junior engineer, of course, they're going to consider you for that role because they will know that, okay, for you to have built all these basic applications, it means that you already know the basics of um, programming. You already know the basics of mobile engineering, and they want to hire you because they don't want to hire somebody that doesn't know anything about mobile engineering. Right. So yeah. So these are projects that you can work on. I don't know if that's from me. Okay. So yeah, the next thing is common beginner mistakes. Common mistakes that beginner make. Um, First one is learning too many things at once. This is like the biggest mistake that beginners always make. So imagine, for instance, when I started the meeting, I talked about native development and I talked about cross-platform development, and I even gave a recommendation that go the cross-platform development route. Then you now stand up and say, okay, I want to do both at the same time. I want to learn Swift native and I want to learn Flutter cross-platform. At the end of the day, you are learning so many things at the same time. You become a jack of all trades, master of none, right? So you have to pick one at a time, learn one at a time, right? So if you want to go cross-platform, learn. You can start with React. So whichever one you start with actually depends on you. You can start with Flutter. Flutter is actually gaining a lot of popularity right now. So you can decide to go with Flutter. When you start Flutter, learn everything that you can about Flutter. Try to build applications on Flutter, update your GitHub and all of that, right? And start applying for Flutter roles. Then after some time, you can now say, okay, Hello, can you hear me? So after some
Oh,
time,
can
you
you
can
hear me
now
now?
say, okay, yeah, you can now say that after some time, you can now say that I don't just want to be a Flutter engineer, right? I want to be a mobile application engineer. So there are two different things, right? Some people will say I am a React Native engineer. Some will say I am a Flutter engineer, right? But if you want to be a mobile application engineer, that's like you saying, if you give me Flutter, I'll do it for you. If you give me React Native, I'll do it for you. If you give me native Swift, I'll do it for you. But I mean, that's already the extreme. That's already the extreme part. But yeah. Okay, my goal is to be a product manager. Nice. Nice. Yeah. I'll speak on that. Right. So yeah. So learn one thing at a time. Don't learn so many things at once. So that's the first beginner mistake. Then the next one is not building projects. Like I mentioned, this is very important, especially as a beginner, right? No matter how small that thing is that you want to build, even if it's a to-do list application, build it and push to GitHub, right? So don't just jump from one application to another. You start to-do list application today, you have not even completed it, you have not pushed to GitHub, now you want to start an expense tracker application. Don't do that, right? So you need to build application. So if you are building to-do list application, you can just use 1 week, dedicate it to-do list application. Make sure you have the basic CRUD operations. I will say again, create, read, update, and delete. Make sure you have all the basic CRUD operations in that particular application, which means that you should be able to create a to-do, what should I call it now, list, right? You should be able to read it, you should be able to update it, you should be able to delete it. Once you have these 4 things, you can now move to the next project. But before then, stay and finish that. So yeah, that's number 2. Then poor state management. So inconsistent data handling can introduce how to find bugs, make your so poor state management. I mean, if you already know how to build all this expense tracker and to-do list application, right, that would already help you to, know how to better manage your states in your application, right? Next one is neglecting performance. So for performance, I think you should really be talking about performance when you got into the mid-level role, right? Mid-level or senior, right? For beginners, you don't really have to worry too much about performance, right? Then skipping version control. Before, I think in 2015, when we started programming, we used to zip it, right? I'll write my own code, I'll zip it, send to Abdul Malik. Abdul Malik to copy that code, adjust his own. When it's done, zip it and send. Because then we didn't really know what, so we knew about Git, but we did not really know like the power of Git, right? So yeah, please don't zip your code in this generation, in this era. So anything you do, version control it and push it to GitHub, right? So for instance, if you wrote something 2 days ago that you've already built on, and what you just built today is giving an issue, and you want to see the difference between what you did yesterday and what is causing issue today, you can actually use Git to do that. That's how powerful Git is, right? It is a memory keeper, like a history keeper per se, in layman terms. Senior engineers here, please forgive me for saying that, right? So basically, it keeps track of your history, right? So what you wrote two days ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, it keeps tracks of everything. So the update that you made 3 years ago, if you check Git will show you, okay, this particular update, this is what you changed, and this is what you removed, and all of that. So that's how powerful Git is. And in Git, there's something called Git blame, right? So if someone like Rodiat and I were working on or maybe someone like, okay, I wanted to say Special, but Special says he wants to be He wants to be a product manager. Who is a okay? Yeah, Rodiat is here. Thank God. Yeah. So if someone say me and Rodiat were working on a particular project, and Rodiat cooks beans, right? I can use Git blame to see that, oh, it is actually Rodiat that wrote this code that is breaking the application. It is not me. So take is Rodiat, crucify her, right? So that's that's another thing that Git does for you. So Git is actually very, very powerful. Oh, okay. Dakwa is asking what is cooked beans. He knows because he cooks beans a lot. So, by the way, Dakwa is a backend engineer. He's a senior backend engineer. So he's just here to support his boy, and he cooks beans a lot. So, yeah, he knows what cookie beans is. All right. So, yeah, neglecting performance. This is actually for mid-level to senior engineers, for roles rather. Then skipping version control. Please don't skip version control, because that's what stores your history. That's what stores your memory. That's your memory per se as a developer. So if you want to go back tomorrow, check some things, Git will help you do that. Then not pushing your code. Like I said, you have to always push your code, no matter how small. Even if it's one line that you're able to write in a day, push it. It will create activity for you on your GitHub profile, so that when you send that profile out, right, they will see that, okay, this guy has a lot of activities, that he has already done a lot of things and all of that. He has pushed a lot of code, right? Even if it's one line, even if it's one word, right, just push it, right? It's going to help you on the long run. So yeah, not pushing code is another mistakes that they make. Oh yeah, that's everything. Thank you very much. Feel free to ask me anything, ask your questions if you have any. Yeah, thank you for giving me the time to go over everything. And yeah, Sparkling Sam, thank you for extending the time for us. Oh, sorry, Callistus, thank you for extending the time for us. So yeah, the floor is open for questions.
All right.
So,
all right. Thank you, Nelson, for that presentation and for the knowledge sharing. I believe everybody on the call right now, whether you're a beginner, you have learned one or two things, today from Nelson's presentation. Yeah, so the floor is open now. We are on the Q&A section right now. So if you have questions you want to ask, whether you want to unmute yourself or you want to drop them in the comment section, and then I can read it out for our speaker so you can respond to them. Kindly do so right now. If you want to unmute yourself, please use the hand emoji to raise up your hand so that we can do it orderly, right? So that it's not rowdy. Yeah, so the QA section is open, and kindly ask your question. Either
okay.
maybe,
okay. Please continue.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's QA section, so we can attend to some questions.
Okay. So yeah, I think I should start with Sparkling Sam, because I think they were the first person to send the question.
Yeah.
So question says, I heard you talk about getting tutorials online. How best does it work for someone who is entirely new to the tech space? And any idea? Okay, and have no idea whatsoever about this space, but curiosity adamant to learn and grow in the space. What are your advices, sir? Okay. So yeah, for getting, I mean, before you go online to say you want to start getting tutorials, right? First of all, what do you want to do, right? Which of the routes that I mentioned do you want to specialize in? Do you want to be a native developer, or do you want to be a cross-platform developer? So if you want to be a native developer, which native developer do you want to be? Android developer, or iOS developer? So these are questions that you need to ask yourself first, right? So once you have all these answers, you can now go online. Everybody started like this, right? I mean, if you just go online and search for, say, I want to be a React Native cross-platform engineer, right? What I need to do is to just go online and write React Native tutorial for beginners. That's all. That's where you need to start from, right? All you need to do for you to even start anything is just make sure you have a laptop. Just have a laptop, then go online and search React Native tutorial. React Native tutorial, it will show you everything that you need to do in terms of your environment setup and everything, right? It will show you everything. And thank God, this is mobile sector. So you already, it's not like it's a strange thing that if I learn this language, what will I be using it for? So because it is mobile, it has already eliminated that doubt or that question in your mind. Because I mean, you use applications like TikTok, you use applications like Facebook, Instagram, you know how they work, WhatsApp. So basically what you want to do is that you want to build another WhatsApp, right? Another WhatsApp that people can use. You want to build another TikTok that people can use, right? So once you have answers to all these questions, you can now navigate and just go online and research all these things. Maybe, I mean, some people, they also, sign up, enroll in some tech. I think, yeah, that's one of the things that IT skills also do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Banjo.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah,
Yeah, you can also sign up with them, enroll with them if you want to learn any stack and all of that. They will help guide you and all of that. I think he will speak on that opportunity after the course, so that if you want to actually explore, you can reach out to them. But yeah, Sparkling Sam, I hope I answered your question to an extent. If not, you can unmute your mic and ask more questions. The floor is open right now.
all right.
Okay,
So can we move on to the next question?
Okay, yeah, the next question is, what is native development? So native development is when you build, basically developing in the platform specific language, right? In the native language, we call it native language. So if you are building in a native language, what are native languages? We have, for Android uses Java Kotlin, right, as its native language. Then iOS uses Swift as its native language. So if you are developing in Swift, you are a native developer. If you are developing in Kotlin, you are a native developer. Do you understand? So native development is when you develop with native languages, and they are always platform specific. You cannot be a native developer and be writing a code that will work for both iOS and Android. No. If you are a native developer, it means that you have one focus. You are only working on Android, or you are only working on iOS. So that's what native development it's. Okay, next question from Dapo. Is this still here? I think he has left. So how can we get foreign jobs? Yeah, I mean, getting foreign jobs. So if this is a beginner class, then I think your focus should be getting, a lot of experiences and the know-how with Nigerian jobs first. Start with Nigerian jobs, then yeah. But I mean, how to get foreign jobs? There's no what's the word now? There's no documentation, right? I mean, what works for me might not work for you, and what worked for me yesterday might not work today. So I mean, the thing varies, and most of the time it is luck, because getting all these international jobs, it can be very difficult. But these are the things that you can do, right? The things that you can be intentional about if you really want to get international gigs. First one, make sure your profile looks very good, right? Make sure your profile is great. You've built projects that you can show. You have a good GitHub account. Make sure all those ones are in place. Then join communities. So, like I said, sometimes the communities that you belong to, all these US guys can just come and post something, or maybe in the UK, they just post something and you're interested and you reach out to them. And because in communities, they don't really look at where you are from. Because one of the biggest obstacle that we always have when applying to foreign jobs is our location, for instance, Nigeria. So sometimes you apply to foreign gigs and they send an email, a rejection email to you that we are not currently hiring from your country and all of that, right? And yeah, another thing, as a software engineer, you are going to get a lot of rejection emails. It is part of the job. So when you get rejection emails, don't be frustrated or don't feel bad. Just keep applying, keep working on yourself, and one day you land that dream role. So yeah, join communities. Make sure you build applications that you can show. Your LinkedIn profile, make sure it looks great. Your GitHub, make sure it looks great. Apply to jobs. Then then also you can join freelancing platforms like maybe Upwork, freelancer.com. Just try your luck. Just be everywhere, and who knows where the luck will come from. So yeah, please, my goal is to be a product manager. You want to come and be managing us? All these product managers are always too proud, right? Yeah, it's definitely a very great route. So product manager, basically what you're going to be doing is that you're going to be the one in charge of the product. So all the features, so you're going to be the one managing the product per se, the developers, the QA engineers, you are like the father of everybody. So if developers have questions about, say, some features about the application, because it is your product, you are expected to know about the features and actually give directions and all of that. So that's what product manager is. Basically, you are managing the team, the product, anybody that is working on the product, back end, all those stubborn back end engineers, back end, UI, UX, and the developers themselves, right? So that's what you'll be doing. So yeah, if you want to go that route, it's actually very nice. What is cooked beans? So I will sit down.
Hello, can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I want to ask, how can I start the product and management? How can I start as a beginner? How can I start the process?
Okay, for product manager,
Yeah.
so there are tools that you need to know how to use, right? You need to know how to use agile methodology tools like Jira, right? You need to know Scrum. You need to learn. I think there's a course called Scrum Master something, right? You can pick that up and learn about it. So basically, you need to know how to manage people. You need to manage people. Learn Jira, or Trello, or depending on the tools that you want to use. And I'm not a product manager, but those are the things that I know. So if you just go to, everything is online. If you go online and search for product manager for beginner, right? Or you can search for
Okay, let me come in from there. So the person can just apply. Nelson, can you hear me?
yes, I forgot that
Oh, yeah,
you are a product manager. Yeah.
yeah. See, I'm a product manager. Okay, so for the person who is interested in product management, right? So just go on IT Skill Center website, right? On the call right now, you go on IT Skill Center and then you apply for product management course, right? And they will reach out to you from there. All right, you can
Yeah,
continue, Nelson.
IT
Okay, okay, thank
skills.
you, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Um. Okay, that was Maureen, right? All right. Cool. Okay.
So
Next
let's move on
question.
to the next question. Do you teach
How
app
many?
development?
Which? Sorry. What's the next question?
Okay, the next question is how many years before someone can land a job? As many
I
years tend to be in the game.
I mean, there are some people that have gotten jobs in less than 6 months, right? So it all still depends on what you have built, how your profile looks. And that's why I keep emphasizing on the fact that build a lot of projects and make sure your GitHub and your LinkedIn looks fine. Then start applying to jobs, right? So as a junior engineer, you can start from internship roles if you want to, but if not, you can directly apply to jobs. So yeah, at that point, it actually depends on your luck and how prepared you are, right? So you can land a job in 3 months, you can land a job in 6 years, God forbid, but yeah, you can. I mean, so yeah, it depends. It depends. There's no specific time that you can land a job. So yeah, next question. You haven't talked about product manager. Okay, project manager. Okay, yeah.
Still the
This
same
this
person. It's still the
okay.
same
Is
person.
this
I think yeah, we can
oh,
skip that because of our
okay.
time. So let's go to do you teach app development and IT skill center? Yes, we do. Go on our website and then apply. Let me paste the
Maybe
link to our
yeah,
website in the chat. Yeah,
yeah.
let me paste the link in the chat. So if you want to apply, you can go there and apply for our web development program. And of course, I'm going to see Nelson at IT Skill Center. Can you share some communities we can join? Yeah, you can join IT Skill Center community. There's a lot of community out there, right? So for some people who need more clarity on how to embark on learning these things, let me just put my WhatsApp number. It's one. Then you can reach out to me after this seminar. So because we've run out of time. Oh, wait, let me do it. All right, so that's my number for people who wants to embark on the journey and then they are looking for guidance on where to learn. Just DM me on WhatsApp. Can you share? Okay, I think I'm okay. All right. So any other question from anybody? Our time is fast spent. We really appreciate Nelson
Yeah, I'm
for
sorry. I talk too much.
yeah, for staying with us to this. All right. So once again, thank you very much, Nelson, for your time and
Thank you
for
for
that
having me.
insightful and practical section. So we truly appreciate your value and what everything you share with us today. All right. So
Thank you very much.
And then it's a very special appreciation to everybody who joined us today, for our another insightful section of our Wednesday seminar at IT Skill Center. So we encourage you to stay connected with IT Skill Center for more learning opportunities. For those joining our January 2026 bootcamp, I expect that some of you are on the call right now. So this is a perfect time to start preparing and engaging with our community. We appreciate your time and we look forward to having every one of you in our next Wednesday's seminar. So from these minutes, this right now, I would say everyone should have a wonderful day. I don't know if Nelson wants to say some opening remark. I mean, before Nelson says some, remark rather. You can connect with Nelson on LinkedIn. I think that's one of the beauty of having seminar and bringing guests on our seminars. Connect with Nelson Lerama on LinkedIn, and then you never can tell. He can share some gigs with you. He does gigs a lot. All right, let's see. Any closing thing you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah. First off, thank you very much for taking your time to join my boring session. And yeah, thank you IT Skills for having me. happy to be here. I'm happy to be back here because I was once part of them actually. I think that was in
Yeah.
2019, 2020 or something. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
part of them before. So yeah, it feels good to be back here. So thank you everyone. So like he said, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, so send me a connection request. I'll accept. If you have any questions, right, you need directions, I can help you. Okay, I think someone has
Oh,
been screaming. Oh, GitHub link. Let me send that.
okay. I think you can do that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my GitHub link. And Sparkling Sam has been screaming in the
In
chats.
the comment in the chat. Okay, said.
Does
Thank you
this
so much.
also apply? Yeah, if I want to take interest in, yeah, UIUX, yes. If you want to go for UIUX, yes, I would highly recommend also. So coding is not hard. You are the one saying that it's hard. It's not hard. Just calm down, read documentation, and calm down, learn. Right? It's not hard. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to learn more about UIUX, you can also speak to. I'm sure they have the course here in IT skills also.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye for now. Thank you.